Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this one's for the Lake George Park Commission and the Darren Freshwater Institute, and of course my pals up there at the Lake George Association, the fund for Lake George. Now, after many years of me exposing the massive sewage problem in the Lake George Basin, finally the Lake George Association and the Glens Falls Bankster Gangsters and the Fund for Lake George, they've come out and admitted that there's a massive sewage problem. Excuse me. There's a massive sewage problem on Lake George. We got a serious sewage problem in Lake George. Well, then they go on and they very deceptively, with a sleight of hand, they try to blame it on aging septic systems, that the aging septic systems are causing the problem, which is so far this damn thing from the truth. The reality is when you build septic systems and leach fields on bedrock, I don't care if it's a brand new system, it's going to leach down to the bedrock and then it's going to drain into the lake. Chris Nowinski, Kathy Bozzoni, Tom West, John Stroh, the Lake George Association, the Fund for Lake George, the Lake George Park Commission, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation. Listen up. I spent 45 years in the construction business, building everything from Johnson Space Center to many skyscrapers. Lots of apartments and townhomes and condominiums, and probably a zillion houses and businesses. The septic problem in the Lake George Basin is that it's all bedrock. That's why there's a lake there. All the water that goes into the 152 square miles of the Lake George Basin from rain and snow and septic systems and leach fields, all of that water drains into the lake through the fissures and the cracks in the rocks and the springs, the streams, and the creeks. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't want to be like I told you so, but the bottom line is with this aging septic system baloney and nonsense, it's not got anything to do with an aging or an old septic system becoming non-functioning. The problem, Mr. Chris Nowinski, is that you don't know what you're talking about and or you're lying. And Tom West, it's either you don't know what you're talking about and or you're lying. And that goes for the rest of them that are trying to conceal the fact that old Witham here has been exposing that sewage septic problem on Lake George for decades. That lake basin is so full of sewage, it's not even funny. And it all gets flushed. I'm right about the flushing too. Mr. David Wick over at the Park Commission. Lake George is flushed. It's called drawdown. When you let a whole bunch of water out of the lake, David Wick, it's called flushing the lake. So, ladies and gentlemen, all the links and information that you could possibly ever want are listed below. And, well, Chris Nowinski, tell him the truth, man. Tell him about the bedrock. John Stroh, Dan Steck, Betty Little, Warden County Board of Supervisors. How about the New York State Department of Health? Tell them all about the bedrock in the Lake George Basin. Why in the flying hell do you think that there's a lake there in the first place? Ladies and gentlemen, there's not a whole lot more you can say about this issue. It's almost comical the way they've tried to cover it up to protect their precious little tourist industry. And that's the state of New York covering up the sewage crisis in New York. And that's Donald Trump and the United States government covering up the sewage crisis in the United States. And if you do a little searching around on the internet by typing in any search engine you want, sewage crisis China, sewage crisis Germany, Sewage crisis Australia, sewage crisis Mexico, sewage crisis South America, sewage crisis Canada, and then of course do your sewage crisis USA. And ask yourself, why is the government dumping so much sewage into the environment? Gazillions of gallons all over the world. Huge, vast, unbelievable amounts of sewage full of massive amounts of viruses and bacteria, all during this pandemic. How about you explain that, Donald Trump? You're the master of toilets and commodes and flushing from the Commodore Hotel. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll leave it right there. And as always, hasta la vista. God bless, and you betcha we're coming back.